you're listening to my mom, Georgia Edson, on iCannabisRadio.com.
Hi, welcome. I'm Georgia, and it is Monday, the 27th of May, 2013, and you are listening to iCannabis
Memorial
Radio.
Day.
Yeah, it's Memorial Day. Thank you for joining us on Memorial Day. I'm decked out in my Memorial Day shirt. I'm in the studio with producer Chris. Hi.
Hello.
And producer Sam.
Hey, Georgia.
And my favorite guest of all time, Warren Edson.
Hey.
You are my favorite guest. You know that?
Yeah.
You should know that. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about Memorial Day and a little bit about news. I want to start off with kind of what Memorial Day is and why that's kind of important in the cannabis world. It's important in all of our worlds, but as you know, Memorial Day is a public holiday that was started as initially in the American Civil War to honor the memory of the soldiers who fought in that war, and it was expanded to commemorate the soldiers who fought in all American wars, including the World Wars. It's also called Decoration Day. People tend to go to, of course, cemeteries and lay wreaths and those kinds of things to honor those who have fallen in war. But, it's also expanded so that we separate all service women and men who have given their time, energy, and ultimately given their lives to maintain the freedom of the United States. And I think that sometimes the military really gets a bad rap because we're so opposed to whatever war we're fighting at the time, and we think we shouldn't be there. And I certainly don't disagree with those kinds of things. I struggle with why we find ourselves in a lot of foreign countries. However, I will always support those folks that are dedicating their lives to ensure that not only we as a people stay free and maintain the freedom, but that really do help other countries. I guess the issue that I have is oftentimes I'm not sure that our help is often helpful, but our service women and men are indeed always helpful. The Veterans Administration several years ago recognized the importance of medicinal marijuana, despite the fact that other big medical communities haven't done so. Bless you.
Thanks.
And one of the things that we know our veterans suffer from greatly is post-traumatic stress disorder. And for those of you that aren't aware of what post-traumatic stress disorder is, I once again will play my LCSW card. It's a series of symptoms occurring from a traumatic event. And so people can have flashbacks and sleep issues and difficulty connecting with people and outrageous anxiety and those kinds of things, often triggered by an event. And very often we find, especially, I think it was particularly named in the Gulf War. We know that a lot of Vietnam vets had PTSD. It just wasn't named as such when they saw women and children being murdered. But in and being in a war where people didn't want you there. Vietnam was kind of the first time that Americans went in. Korea too, but the Korean people at least embraced the soldiers, as opposed to in Vietnam, where the American soldiers were standing next to someone who they thought they were fighting for, and those people spit in their face. Korea was definitely kind of the start of that decline in how other countries saw us when we tried to come in and quote unquote help. So the Gulf War really. People who came back from the Gulf War definitely experienced the symptoms that are now called post-traumatic stress disorder. And there are quite a few treatments for post-traumatic stress disorder. There is a litany of pharmaceutical medications that can aid in the symptoms. There is a series of therapies, from talk therapy to hypnosis and those kinds of things. But what we know is that is that lots of veterans turn to cannabis to self-medicate their symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. And it was interesting. I was reading an article from Stanford University. They did a study. Breathing exercises help veterans find peace after war. They taught yoga breathing to veterans who suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, and they took them on a week-long workshop where they learned these breathing techniques. And not surprisingly, when they learned how to kind of relax their breathing and this meditative kind of thing, the veterans felt better, right? That makes sense. But a year later, those veterans who continued to practice those breathing techniques continued to feel better. Well, it's not surprising that cannabis would aid in post-traumatic stress disorder as well, because what happens when you smoke cannabis? Things can slow down for you, and you can relax, and you can concentrate more on single items, and it helps reduce anxiety and all of those kinds of things. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of buy-in by our public officials to have post-traumatic stress disorder be a covered diagnosis for recommending medical marijuana, at least in Colorado.
Well, just lack of science. I mean, we can talk about it and talk about the people that it appears to directly affect, but when you petition the state to have it, which is what you're supposed to do, the petition, I saw the petition that was filed with the state. It did not go through.
Right.
And that
twice, right? Didn't they try to do it twice?
I can't remember if PTSD was twice. I know there's been a number of them, but
okay.
Yeah, and it was just based on lack of science.
But it would be so helpful for for our veterans, and we would love to be able to support them in such a way that. And Warren's leaving with a chair. We would love to be able to support our veterans who are already using cannabis, and ensure that they get the medicine that they need via. Our public officials just saying, yes, indeed, there's enough anecdotal evidence to. Mine doesn't squeak.
Mine did.
Yeah, that one squeaks.
And I've seen people complaining before about the squeaky chair.
Okay, ready? Nice.
Fixed.
Nice. So we would like to be able to support our servicemen and women by ensuring that they get the medicine that they need to be able to aid in relief of their symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as a whole bunch of other things. I mean, the physical pain and ailments that people come back from war bearing, people are like, oh, I can see that. You're in pain. You're missing a limb. You've got this, that, or the other thing going on. And so that seems to have a whole bunch more weight than the psychological effects that people experience that we know cannabis aids in as well. So there. Mm-hmm. Also, some evidence that marijuana prevents suicide. Am I?
No, I just wanted to check something.
What? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah. It's made in China.
My shirt is made in China?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yo, it is. I'm not kidding. I wouldn't joke about stuff like that.
That is funny.
That's
Yep.
Ironic.
Yeah, it's USA.
So now what do I do with it?
USA.
Well, you just rip the tag off.
You can't, because it's actually kind of fancy. It's like on there. There's no tag.
Oh, it's nice.
It's like a Hanes shirt
Itchless tags or whatever they call
Those are
them.
nice ones.
So I have this tradition with your family. Every year I bring 4th of July. Warren and I spend, and Gavin spend our 4th of July holiday with Warren's family in the middle of nowhere. And I always bring 4th of July decorations, which includes a 4th of July shirt for Warren's mom and his aunt and myself.
The middle of nowhere doesn't have boat parades.
It does. It has a boat parade. Have you guys ever been to a boat parade before? Mm-mm. So literally
On a lake. So it's not even like in a Florida boat parade where they're like going down canals or whatever, like real boats. No, this is like 12-foot fishing boats, Lumacrafts, with,
there's a
70-year-old motors.
Every year there's a theme.
Yeah,
And
decorate the
they decorate the boat, and there's
Yeah.
usually at least
cool.
20 boats.
at least.
And they're drunk, and they're
Wow.
blaring music. Right?
Allegedly drunk.
It's always fun.
Well, right. I mean, I've never.
Well, this year they have full-on medical marijuana dispensaries, so it'll be really crazy.
Oh, that's fun. Just looking about.
That's fun. One year we actually were the judges of the boat parade, but no one knows who's the judge.
Oh.
So
secret.
it's top secret. So of
Awesome.
course they don't want you playing up to the judges. They don't want
Right.
any bribery because I got to tell you, I'd take a bribe from those folks. I would take a bribe.
Yeah.
They would. I mean, the bribes would be amazing. If we, God, why didn't we tell people? We knew.
Blue people.
We should have just told people. But anyhow, we were the judge.
I'm not getting involved in lake politics.
And
Nope.
they take it very seriously. Very seriously. They come and, after the boat parade, we had to huddle as a family and decide what, and there was a little bit of argument and there's a little bit of politics. And, sorry, I just got jumped on by a little baby puppy. In the end, I think we did a really good job making a decision, but I understand that there were some people who were pissed that they lost, or
Every
didn't
year.
win, I should say. So I guess from that
losers.
perspective, I was glad they didn't know it was us.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, that is very good.
I kind of didn't think about that part.
Well, and it gets so silly that like the president who's in charge of collecting the votes has like fake people that he goes to after the parade,
Right, it
so
would be
that nobody can tell.
Yeah,
Because if he just went straight to the people who were the judges, then everybody would know. But there's such silly politics in it.
That's funny.
Anyway,
He's going to the fake person.
yeah. So she's ready. She got 4th of July stuff.
I don't have shirts yet, though. I don't
You
have.
can get some more Chinese shirts.
Well, yeah. Now you've kind of wrecked it. Well, and it's hard because
That's what I do.
I have to get 3 that match because we have to dress alike. And a couple of years I got hats so that all the boys could wear hats. Warren wears a hat for about 5 minutes, and then we get pictures, and then it gets discarded. Gavin
It's
doesn't.
tough to drive around in a boat with big hats on. Just
Oh,
kind of.
it
It
was
wasn't
big
a
hat.
big hat, Warren. It was a. I mean, I guess it was a huge cowboy hat. It was really tall, and it had
mean it
a
wasn't a big
bandana.
hat?
It was pretty big. It was pretty. It was sort of
Yeah.
like a sombrero. It was like a cowboy meets a sombrero. Yeah, I guess you're right. It
Yeah.
was pretty big. It was pretty big. But this day is the unofficial day of summer. I have to say that we have a summer tradition in my household. Actually, we meaning Gavin and I. And our summer tradition, I almost changed today, but I stuck with it. Were you proud of me?
I guess.
Why are you saying it like that?
I don't know.
So our summer tradition is that there's a Slurpee season. You guys know what Slurpees are? Okay. So you can only eat Slurpees in the summer.
Oh, yeah.
That's the rule. So when does summer start? Like the 20th of June. And it ends on like the 20th, roughly, of September. Well, this weekend is the unofficial start of summer. It's the summer fun season, not necessarily the season of summer. You know what I
Call
mean?
for grilling season.
So it's the grilling season. And so I kind of wanted to bend the rules and really have Slurpee season start Memorial Day weekend and end Labor Day weekend, and made the mistake of telling Gavin, who then decided it should be the school season, the school summer. And then I realized it was really getting out of control and it would change every year if we let it. So
Nip that in the bud.
I stuck to my guns because it's hard for me because I adhere to the Slurpee rule as well.
Hey, let's run some ads, pay some bills, and then we can get into some real stuff rather than Slurpee season.
Okay, we'll be right back.
The law offices of Edson, Maton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Let's face it, rules and regulations are complicated, especially in the field of medical marijuana. Let Medical Marijuana 101 help you get through the compliance process. We can also explain to you your employment requirements, your employees, and your business. But our work doesn't stop there. Our experience in cultivation ranges from the design of grow rooms to the diagnosis and resolution of grow problems. Visit us at www.medicalmarijuana101.com or call 303-388-7706. That's 303-388-7706.
The National Cannabis Industry Association would like to thank its members who represent the leading professional businesses in America's emerging legal cannabis market. NCIA is the only organization that has unified legitimate cannabis business across the nation to fight for real reform in Washington, D.C. For more information or to make your business a member, visit us online at thecannabisindustry.org.
Hi, welcome back. You're listening to iCannabis Radio. I am Georgia in the studio with Attorney Warren Edson and Sam and Chris. So what do you got going on, Warren?
Well, we talked earlier about the lack of science as to PTSD. And that's what's so incredibly frustrating right now is that I have no idea why CU, CSU, or one of the offshoots, meaning like CU Pueblo, CU Colorado Springs, Denver, CU Denver, Metro doesn't pick up. What the hell are they called now?
What's Metro's new name?
Yeah, aren't we not supposed to call them
I think
that
it's
anymore?
still Metro.
I thought that anyway. So, as reported by a number of sources today, but somehow I pulled mine up from the where'sweed.com
Nice.
blog. The University of Michigan has recently received a $2.2 million federal research grant to study marijuana's effects on pain. This funding comes from the National Institute on Drug Abuse and will pay for a 2-year study of 800 Michigan medical marijuana patients who are seeking to obtain a state medical marijuana card. The team of University of Michigan Medical School researchers will approach patients at their first doctor's visits and will try to document medical marijuana's potential impact in a more scientific way. Quote, with the ongoing policy debate and the growing popularity of medical marijuana programs in the U.S., it is essential to understand the ramifications of medical marijuana use for individuals who seek to access it, says study leader Mark Ilgen, Ph.D. We hope that with this study, we can help inform the debate. And he goes on to say marijuana is the most frequently used drug in the nation, has been legalized for medical use in many ways, yet we have very little understanding of how individuals are using marijuana over time, says Federick, a co-investigator in the study. We hope this study will help provide much-needed data on the characteristics of those who need medical marijuana and the long-term impact on their health and their lives. And so University of Michigan gets $2.2 million. They've got a relatively brand new program. They don't have organized distribution. They don't know where the grows really come from, and yet they get the money. I just don't understand what we're doing.
So I'm not sure I understand exactly what the study is to do. It
looks like they're just going to track patients.
A longitudinal study to be able to track how people are using, how often, that kind of thing, do you think?
All the articles are pretty generic,
sure,
but I'm not sure the study isn't generic. It's NIDA. So it's a government agency that hates weed. So let's start from there.
A government agency.
You have to go through them.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
So let's start. You go through them, you start a study, and it's kind of interesting how vague it is because that cuts both ways.
Right.
It allows the tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists to say, oh my God, this is just going to be a study of the negative impacts on these people's lives and health. But at the same time, if someone wants to be wants to be conspiracy theorist the other way, you could say, well, geez, it's so friggin' vague. It could go the other direction.
Sure.
And study instead the pain relief the article starts out talking about.
Yeah.
But, we could sit here and list through 10, 12 things that should be studied, and why our state isn't collecting money to do this with a brand new University of Colorado Medical School down here on way East Colfax, and a brand new VA hospital that's right next door,
right,
way out on East Colfax. What a perfect place to study everything from PTSD to DUID to cancer to, on and on and on and on. Isn't the ancient cancer thing out there too?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you could just keep going and going and going what could be happening and what money could be flowing in. And with the, okay, I'm going to stay out of the debate on good, bad, otherwise. But we've got a fairly tracked system here. They could be picking up strains and be pretty sure of what those strains are and know where it's coming from. It could be run through a lab and pesticides. A lot of stuff could happen here that can't happen in other states. So somehow we need to get through to those folks. Too bad you don't know anybody who works in a university or has anything to do with a hospital, huh?
Yeah, too bad.
Yeah.
So I get my information from the Weed blog. So
Do you?
just
Okay.
as reputable says.
I'm sure.
And I read an article, new study seeks 10,000 veterans for marijuana treatment monitoring
Where?
here in Denver.
Wow. Okay.
Yep, study will base operations in Denver, $240,000 in funding already secured.
Who's doing it?
Well, let's get to it.
Okay. Read. I won't interrupt.
Yeah. Medical professionals and interested parties have announced the start of stage 1 of a new and highly ambitious study monitoring PTSD. That was my theme today. And cannabis use, designed to answer a age-old question: do veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress benefit from the use of medical marijuana?
When can I interrupt?
What's that?
Who the hell's doing this study? Because the problem we always come down to is you can have studies out the yin-yang, but when you introduce it to these politicians, somehow frigging studies from Spain, it's considered like a fourth world nation.
The principals involved in the project include Mary Lynn, an RN, listed as the president and co-founder of Patients Out of Time. So it's a Patients Out of Time study. Clifton Crone and attorney William Graff of Colorado. So Patients Out of Time, which already works with the National Nurses Association, is looking to fund the study. Funding for the project includes a pledged donation of $240,000 from Crone's company Ignami Systems. The group is still looking for money to pay for a June 7th through 10th research planning meeting, and establishing an internet website with resources to offset the cost. Stage 2 of the product is data collection involving veterans who have PTSD in their primary or secondary diagnosis. Principals will receive free monitoring of their symptoms and medication for approximately 2 to 3 years. Stage 3 involves analyzing the data to determine the relationship between diagnostic symptoms and their use of medical marijuana. So this is a far more pointed study, but it's also one of those self-report kinds of studies.
Well, the other issue is it's not supported by any major American university or
Correct.
any kind of traditional research agency. So without that, I'm concerned a whole lot of money will be spent and time will be spent on something that the politicians throw by the wayside because it's just another one of those pot people studies.
Right.
And I don't mean that to offend anybody. It's just the reality of what we run into over and over again.
But your point is well taken. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we hear time and time again that there isn't research to support this position or that position, and we say this in the community, and the politicians and lawmakers say it back to us all the time. But no one's doing anything differently to start some studies happening, to work on some research.
Well, but clearly Michigan is.
Except for Michigan, yeah.
Well, I mean, somebody, and why Michigan got approved where, Massachusetts didn't and San Francisco didn't, I don't really know the politics of that. But, I mean, clearly it can happen now.
That's right. A new study by researchers at New York University School of Medicine and their collaborators across the U.S. suggests that there's a connection between the number of cannabinoid receptors in the brain and the effects of PTSD. Cannabinoid receptors, or CB1 receptors, are a part of a large system of chemicals and signaling pathways from the brain to the body, NYU says. They play a role in the formulation of memories and the transmitting messages about appetite, pain, and mood to the body. Studies have shown that certain chemicals, like cannabis, can combine with naturally produced neurotransmitters to activate CB1 receptors, which can turn their impaired memory and reduce anxiety. So New York, which doesn't have medical cannabis, isn't even moving forward. They're doing research.
Mm-hmm. And my guess is they don't have a brand new VA hospital or a brand new state university hospital. But anyway.
So what do you suggest that people do if they want to see research happen?
And that's, I come here ignorant of anything other than bitching. I mean, it's just a shame. I complained years ago about this and kind of got that they can't because they won't get the federal government approval. And until this thing broke with Michigan, that was just the story and sticking to it. And so, yeah, I mean, research has got to be done and some button pushing has to happen. And one would hope, like, I guess, It's probably going to have to come from some veterans who are going to have to go to the VA and see you and say, hey, we want to be a part of this or do this, or you need to petition to do this, because, come on, it's hard to say no to a veteran.
Right. No, we shouldn't. Absolutely. Well, and again, I mean, anecdotal evidence is huge, and people use that in their everyday lives to make decisions. But that's not how governments make decisions. Thank goodness we don't want governments making decisions and our lawmakers making decisions just because there's a couple of anecdotal pieces of evidence that lead them in a certain direction. I mean, we want them to go by hardcore facts and those kinds of things. I mean, 5 nanograms is a prime example of why we need science.
Well, as we sit here talking and thinking at the same time, I mean, it's obviously something that needs to be discussed with Congressman Polis next time any one of us see him, that, hey, really appreciate some of the legislative stuff you keep trying to do. It keeps getting closer and closer, still a long way, but, in the interim, we should be jumping all over this research stuff, then use it to support his other stuff. But
That's right. Absolutely. Well, hopefully, again, I mean, there is starting to be some interest in doing some research. I mean, I think that, like you said before, I mean...
Well, somebody broke through. I mean, 'cause
yeah.
that's really it. I mean, Professor at UMass had been trying for a couple of years.
Arizona has been trying.
The Dartmouth guy got some money to do it, but that wasn't a very positive study. And what is it? University of San Francisco had been trying as well. So it's just a matter of somehow getting through that to get the permission to do it.
Well, and get the funding. I mean, like you said, NIDA wants to do research that is
I think there's
not
funding.
fair and balanced.
I mean, the issue isn't funding. It's getting approval from the DEA and NIDA to do the actual research and allow these places to possess and use and distribute marijuana.
Well, and none of these places are doing anything other than tracking effects on people. They're not touching the product. They're not touching cannabis, right?
I'm not sure. Again, from the articles I'm checking, that looks like they're tracking through the pseudo dispensary system in Michigan. I'm talking about actually being more proactive than that and actually getting involved and figuring out what they're using and what doesn't work. I mean, one thing that bubbled up this week that, we won't get into names, but a good friend of ours has some serious diabetes issues and has been saying for years that he thinks different strains help him control his problems. And holy crap, this week there was finally actual real live medical reports saying, yeah, it looks like this is the case. And in, of all places, Time magazine.
And ironically, he finds eating cannabis to be particularly helpful in managing his blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically.
Yep.
Ironically.
I can't get that down. I mean, I've tried eating marijuana. It doesn't taste very good, at least to me, because it tastes really healthy, and usually I get the stickiest stuff, so my teeth are all.
Well, he eats edibles. He doesn't eat raw plant.
He eats edibles.
He eats
that's
edibles.
fine. Yeah, I love
yeah.
edibles. 'Cause I did eat raw cannabis, and
people do that. People
it
juice
tastes
it.
very
Yeah.
healthy. Yeah.
Yeah. People juice it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It tastes healthy, and some taste healthy. Usually, it doesn't taste good to me. If it tastes healthy, which is bad. I hate that.
Put it in a smoothie.
Yeah.
When in
yeah,
doubt,
absolutely.
put everything in a smoothie. That's my philosophy. Right?
Does juicing it make it taste any better?
See, there are juicing people and there are smoothing people.
Yes,
And
yes,
the
yes,
smoothie
sounds
people and the
good.
juicing people.
You can bring in Jesus and you guys can argue.
We
about
fight.
that for a
Yeah,
while.
we fight about the
'cause
difference
we
in
did this the other night.
Yeah,
Well, I know it's healthy for you, so that's good.
it definitely is.
It's a superfood.
We're going to take it is superfood. We're going to take a quick break, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio on Memorial. We'll be right back.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it. On grass. Runongrass.com.
Are you a medical marijuana patient or interested in finding out how to become one? Contact Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. Conveniently located on Hamden and Tamarack in the Whole Foods parking lot behind Proof of the Pudding, Mile High Wellness offers a wide variety of edibles, hashes, and some of Colorado's top strains. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern. 3525 South Tamarack, Suite 110, on the corner of Hamden and Tamarack. 720-382-8516. Mile High Wellness, where your care is our concern.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
Welcome back. You're listening to iCannabis Radio. We've been talking a little bit about veterans and research, cannabis research, and how helpful it would be if not just for our veterans, but in general, if we had some hardcore science to be able to back up what we know to be true about cannabis. And, we got to catch up with the rest of the world. I mean, the rest of the world has been doing research on cannabis.
Israel.
Forever. I mean, Israel is a great example, and Israel is making their medical marijuana that much easier. There are going to be that many more doctors. I just read an article today who are able to recommend medical marijuana. I think they have 9 doctors now, and there's going to be 20 by the end of the calendar year.
That's great.
To meet this amazing demand for this amazing plant.
They have high CBDs as well there. Very CBD.
They do research.
Yeah,
they do research. Yes.
They know.
I don't know what we're afraid of. I don't know what our politicians are definitely afraid of sticking their neck out and being persecuted for something so ridiculous.
Right. Yes.
But we move forward as several more states are looking to pass their medical initiatives. Illinois is just waiting for the governor to sign, which is pretty exciting. But I read this article in the Chicago Tribune. Colorado offers window into medical marijuana industry's risks and rewards. Illinois' proposed statute is more restrictive. At Lila European Cafe, a quirky 24-hour coffee shop and bar in the heart of downtown Denver, a bartender was quick with her thoughts on Colorado's experience with the legal sale of medical marijuana. By the way, I'd never heard of Lila's European Cafe, so I had to look it up, and it is in the heart of downtown. It is. It's really easy to get, says the 25-year-old bartender. She uses it to calm her anxiety, boost her appetite, and help her sleep. And she said, and it's delicious. That's exactly what Illinois... Did you see it taken by a dachshund? Look out, wiener dog!
Dude, you were asleep.
Yeah, and then I squished him a little bit. Just got to put him on his... Yeah, that's what Chris does. No. And just scoot... Now scoot back. He gets in the back of the chair. He's your lumbar support.
No, he isn't. Here, come around.
Aw. I was just talking about...
Dead weight. Your legs work. I know they do. I see them go.
That's what they do.
Sorry.
I was just talking a little bit about Illinois and this article that was in the Tribune. And so when the bartender said it's easy to get, the response was that's exactly what Illinois is trying to avoid. While Colorado is not quite the Wild West of medical marijuana, it offers a window into the opportunities and consequences that arise when a state allows the legal sale of a long banned drug. The state's therapeutic cannabis industry launched in earnest in late 2009, triggering a green rush that boosted the state's economy. Big marijuana added thousands of new jobs, revitalized aging industrial warehouses and shuttered storefronts, and gathered millions of tax dollars for the federal, state, and local governments. We know that. At the same time, state officials acknowledged they were unprepared to license, inspect, and regulate medical marijuana businesses, leaving millions of fees and taxes uncollected and a significant swath of the industry unchecked. And recently released police data show a modest uptick in certain crimes near marijuana businesses in Denver. What crimes are those, babe?
Selling weed.
More people are arrested for selling weed outside of
Well, the
dispensaries.
actual activity is a crime. And they actually include that if you look at the data.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's part of the funny part of that article.
So the store is included in crime statistics.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's silly.
Yeah.
But they do call it a slight uptick, modest uptick.
Well, and the other irony is that I think if you looked into that, as you know, part of the uptick is that they're realizing crimes are happening that they didn't realize before because you
Because
guys have video.
We're catching him on video
I mean,
all the
seriously.
time.
Seriously.
Did I talk you guys about a week or two ago when a police officer came in because the apartments right behind our store, someone broke into the storage unit and stole everything. A refrigerator, washer, dryer. I mean, big items. So he came into the store hoping that our video cameras would catch across the street, would be that broad of, but it wasn't. But anyway, so that, he was there in the hopes that we could catch yet another criminal on our video cameras. But as the nation's first highly regulated for-profit market, Colorado has served as a model for other states seeking to get in on the action. In crafting legislation that would allow for the legal sale of the drug to certain patients beginning 2014, Illinois lawmakers looked to build upon the experience in Colorado, where pretty much anyone with a long-ago injury can get a doctor's approval to purchase up to 2 ounces of pot at a time.
But what's so interesting is that always gets dumped on the industry and the patients, when in fact, if there's a problem, it's the doctor. Because without the doctor's signature, that wouldn't be happening.
Why does that go so unstated? Because no one wants to
be mean
berate
to
a doctor?
doctors. Yeah. And because it's supposed to, no offense to doctors. I don't know how they do what they do, but it's supposed to be a holier than thou profession.
We do.
I mean,
put them on a pedestal.
But that is 100% doctor issue. I mean, we've gone so far as to prohibit them from being in the MMC, from prohibiting payment between the businesses and the doctors, which doesn't happen in the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah, they've cut back in the pharmaceutical industry, but
it still happens.
It still, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have zero.
Yep, we're absolutely, we are not allowed to have a relationship with a doctor.
And so, the problem should be going to the doctors and their associations and saying, what the hell's going on here?
So the sentence goes on. I need to say the end of the sentence because, of course, it's one of those funny things. There can never be a marijuana story that doesn't sound like something that a high school kid wrote. And it says, as I said, anyone can get a doctor's approval to purchase up to 2 ounces of pot at a time, enough to stuff 2 small sandwich bags, which isn't always true. But anyway, sometimes you can put 2 ounces in one small sandwich bag, depending on the strain.
Paper bag? Yeah.
You can squish it. Illinois' proposed statute is far more restricted, placing tighter limits on those who can legally purchase the drug and where it can be grown and sold. The bill, which would allow people with 42 defined conditions. 42. How many do we allow in Colorado?
7 or something?
42.
Yeah.
I can't name 42 conditions.
Well, they don't have chronic pain, which I think is why they'd say that they have a tighter system.
42 conditions. Defined conditions to purchase the drug legally over a 4-year trial period, which was approved by the Senate on May 17th. And the governor is just going to wait to sign it. As the governor contemplates a decision, experienced pot entrepreneurs in and around Denver are watching closely with the hopes that the time and money they've spent shaping and supporting the Illinois bill will pay off.
Dun, 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 dun.
Everyone's looking at Illinois and New York because that's where the population is, says Kayvon from Denver Relief. The ball is rolling, and with more and more states coming on all the time, we see opportunity everywhere. So, I mean, on some level, it's great that states are looking at Colorado. I thought Massachusetts was going to look at Colorado.
They kind of did.
They looked at Colorado, and then they said, all right, well, Colorado allows this. We're going to figure out how to kind of do it like this, right?
No. I mean, you can have a larger supply. It's like a 60-day supply, so that's bigger.
Whatever that means.
If you got the money to play, because, I mean, it's what, $50,000 a year
50,
they announced this year for licenses? 50,000 a year.
Well, and
so
don't,
I mean,
don't
and
any
that'll
business
certainly
owners in
play
Colorado
off.
complain.
That'll certainly pay off if you're one of the 4. No, bullshit. You can still complain in Colorado. Just because Massachusetts is screwing the owner worse than here doesn't mean you can't still complain here. But and frankly, if you're in Boston and one of the 4 licenses in a city of 7 million, 50,000, you probably aren't complaining.
Right.
Now, if you've got the Nantucket license,
where you only have people 3 months a year.
Yeah. Well, granted, the people that remain there all winter probably smoke a ton of weed, but it still won't be enough.
Right. So Illinois is on the way. What happened in New Hampshire this week, Warren?
It's sitting for the governor to sign.
Pretty exciting. Finally, after a few rejections, New Hampshire is starting to move forward.
Yeah, and we'll see what their rules are, because I know that there's discussion. No home grow went into it, and of course, New Hampshire is. I think New Hampshire is the first medical marijuana state whose alcohol industry is owned and controlled by the actual state. So we will see what happens to see if the state of New Hampshire decides that, they're going to have the equivalent of the New Hampshire state liquor store on the side of the highway for weed. It would not surprise me because,
half the building alcohol, half the building cannabis.
It already kind of looks like a tobacco shed. They just, build another one next to it. But we'll see.
Yep. It's just amazing. And this one wasn't hard to pass through the Senate and the House.
It's gone through a number of years, and it's always been rejected by the governor. 2 years? And this was going to be the third year in a row.
Yep.
But now there's a different governor in New Hampshire. This governor said they'd sign it, and so here you go. And, that, right, completes New England.
Do you consider New York part of New England?
No.
Probably?
No.
No, sorry.
South of Hartford.
Okay. Then, yes, it completes. Yeah, New Hampshire was that gaping hole. So did you hear about D.C.?
The rabbi?
The rabbi?
Yeah.
Rabbi opens the first medical marijuana dispensary in...
Second, right?
Awesome. Probably has a...
For some reason, I thought it was a second.
I'm Jewish, but I'm not that Jewish. There's a thing that you put on the wall, on your door. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's like kind of looks like a glass mezuzah. That's it. I wonder if they have a mezuzah on the dispensary.
I don't know. I don't have a picture of it. We'll find out for next week.
That would be cool.
Yeah, but pretty exciting. I mean, of course you'd expect a rabbi to be kind of socially conscious and thoughtful, and so it's not really surprising that.
Really?
Uh-huh.
It's not surprising that they're selling weed?
No, I'm not surprised.
Okay.
I'm not surprised. And they'll be kosher kush.
Yeah,
that's what I heard. That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
No, it makes so much sense.
That was one of the clinic's winning strains, was the kosher kush.
That's funny. Apparently, marijuana cookies, edibles are kosher. They are kosher for Passover, for Pesach. So if it's Passover, you're fine.
Everyone hear that? I think we had a lot of people who were concerned, and now they feel much better.
Yeah.
Now, are you going to read that article about feeding the pigs?
I was going to read it, but
that'd be a nice contrast to the rabbi.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that right now. I was going to talk a little bit about Ohio. I mean, I'm trying to get the momentum going. I mean, things are all going in the right direction. If Ohio can get this on the ballot in November, and backers of the third attempt in less than 2 years to legalize marijuana in Ohio, medical marijuana, in Ohio, insist the latest effort will take root as it did in Michigan. I know. I love this. It's so creative. You have to have, again, did I mention that it's sort of like a high school stoner's paper where they have to have as many
innuendos.
Yeah, innuendos as possible. Exactly. There's far more interest in people backing this one, particularly those who want to bring people into the political arena in 2014, said Bob Fertarkis, a member of the Ohio rights group behind the latest effort. The group just cleared 2 hurdles in a petition to get petition circulators out. Both Attorney General Mike DeWine and Ohio Ballot Board have signed off on the language, and that would be drawn into the potential petitions. But its 2 predecessors reached this point too in late 2011 and early 2012, only to watch the momentum then evaporate. I mean, I think the timing's good. I mean, there is so much momentum right now, and states are turning pretty quickly.
I guess it's hard as hell to get stuff on a ballot and then to run the issue. That's a lot of work. What's interesting, we're seeing some legislative action, which, is a lot of work, but a completely different way and a completely different atmosphere and tone, because obviously that's money coming from lobbyists, and money only gets to lobbyists through businesses. And
that's right.
All that comes with that.
That's right. Unlike the other 2 previous attempts, the proposed Ohio Cannabis Rights Amendment contains the political buzzword rights. It seeks to combine the sometimes diverging support of therapeutic use of marijuana and the industrial use of marijuana's psychoactive root plant hemp. And putting hemp in the ballot definitely brings in some other people who care more about planting hemp and using industrial hemp and those kinds of things. So that's probably smart. There's always been a split in the movement, with some strongly advocating industrial hemp but not medical marijuana, and others wanting medical marijuana without wanting to deal with the hemp issue. We've had two divided movements, and we're trying to put together into one grand movement, is what the Ohio Rights
I guess,
says.
but then you run into the weirdness we have here, where, yes, we have one united movement that's both trying to pass stuff that could 4 or 5 years from now end up screwing each other over. For those of you who don't know, hemp has to be under 0.03 THC, and obviously what's medical marijuana, 15% and above, and there's about a 10 to 12 mile, allegedly, radius around the two plants that causes cross-pollination. And we certainly have heard numbers of stories from last year's Denver crops of folks who got cross-pollinated. So, I mean,
Well, and
it'll be interesting to see how the two industries coexist over the next few years, particularly in here in Colorado, where you're going to have 1 million plus consumers of marijuana.
Well, and they say that the easy answer is hemp can be grown outdoors and marijuana indoors. And if you think about it at all, well, what do you have to do? You have to vent your indoor. And how do you do that? You bring clean air in and you put out dirty air. And so what happens? You suck in the air from the outside, where what's being grown? The hemp.
Yeah, well, it appears 10 to 12 miles, even with filters.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
I mean, again, it's a weird thing, but we'll see.
We're going to take one more break, and then we're going to come back and talk about pigs. Don't miss it.
Whether you are a commercial grower or cultivate as a hobby, No Dough Urban Garden Supply is Denver's first stop for your hydroponic grow needs. With a wide range of products including House and Garden, Botanicare, and Fox Farm, their knowledgeable staff can get you started on your first garden or help you with your well-established business. No Dough Urban Garden Supply is located in downtown Denver at 1330 27th Street, 4 blocks north of Coors Field near MMD of Colorado. They are open 6 days a week from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 303-296-3424 or visit them on the web at www.nodoughurbangardensupply.com.
High up in the Rockies is beautiful Frisco, Colorado. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies is a medical marijuana center with compassion for Colorado's medical patients. Looking for great meds grown organically in soil? You've come to the right place. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies is just off I-70 at exit 203. Check them out at the web at www.mmrockies.com. Their ever-changing strain and clone selection is updated on the website daily. When making a trip to the mountains, no matter the season, stop by Medical Marijuana of the Rockies. Make sure you say you heard about them on iCannabis Radio. You can call 970-668-MEDS to get more information. Medical Marijuana of the Rockies, your mountain source for meds.
Green Faith Ministry is for spiritual guidance, MMJ information, and networking combined with compassionate care on the way to enlightenment with all Green Faith sacraments. Green Faith provides charity assistance, including medical and food throughout the year. Contact them at greenfaithministry.com.
Welcome back. Thank you for listening. I'm Georgia, and it is Memorial Day. Thank you, veterans. We appreciate it. All that you do and all the work that you do and the dedication you have to keeping our country free. I do have one last article. There's not really a good segue from thanking our veterans to the time.com article, Marijuanas Give Pigs the Munchies Too.
And they eat it? I'd imagine they eat everything. Pigs don't know. Pigs are smoking the marijuana.
I don't know that that they did any research on pigs smoking necessarily, but it says Washington is experimenting with mixing excess stems, roots, and leaves of marijuana plants into pig food to prevent waste. And the early results are promising. The pigs get the munchies, and their meat tastes better.
Mm-hmm. And that's subjective. If the meat tastes better.
Right. Definitely. Reuters reports that 4 pigs given pot-infused feed during the last 4 months of their lives ended up 20 to 30 pounds heavier than their siblings when they were all sent to the slaughterhouse in March. They were eating more, as you can imagine, and the pig's owner.
What was
I'm sorry. I just can't keep a straight face. I mean, this is just hilarious. Let's see, what else? It's unclear whether the specially infused feed had measurable traces of THC, the active ingredient in marijuana. A 2011 study by the European Food Safety Authority showed that this aspect in particular has remained unstudied in the scientific community. So, of course, if they're just using stems and those kinds of things, I mean,
That's what they are using.
that's what they're using. So they're not using the flower.
Right.
Negligible traces of THC.
Yeah, I've never zoomed in on the stem, but I have seen cannabis that is just on the stems are covered with trichomes, and that's where the THC is. So if you got good stuff you're throwing in there,
Some happy pigs.
Mm-hmm.
Happier than I don't know. I don't have to say.
Pig in a blanket.
Happier than a pig in a blanket.
I like this.
Though the federal government still classifies marijuana as an illegal drug, Washington and Colorado were the first states, blah, blah, blah. We know that the cannabis-fed pigs were butchered by William Van Sheldon, who owns a butcher shop in downtown Seattle. In March, he had a special event serving up the specially fed pork as part of a 5-course meal. It proved popular, and he also quickly sold out of the remaining meat afterwards. No surprise there.
I wonder
no
if
surprise
the
there.
meat tastes any different.
I mean, they said it tasted better, but you're right. That's very subjective.
Yeah.
They said it tasted better. I mean, you would think. I mean, I would guess that if I was a pig farmer, the idea is that you want your pigs to get really big.
Yeah, and I guess giving them even stems. I mean, any part of the cannabis plant's healthy.
It is healthy, and
So
if
they're getting
it
healthy stuff.
gives them the munchies so that they eat more, that's good for the farmer's business.
Mm-hmm.
And if somehow it tastes better, whether it's
that's even better.
whether it is
Bacon tastes better. How do you do that?
Blah.
I like it.
But yeah, kind of interesting. So there's all kinds of interesting things that they're doing with cannabis these days, and I really feel like we're getting closer and closer to turning the corner. We were definitely close enough in November when Colorado and Washington State moved amazingly into this great new world. But just in general, I think people are looking at this smarter and more thoughtful.
Yeah.
It was interesting this morning on the John Doe radio show. They talked a little bit about the social pot users, social smokers, and saying, there's going to be this whole, new cadre of people who are social smokers. And my feeling is that that's not the case, that there are social smokers out there who just are so nervous and uncomfortable about doing something that's illegal, that this is going to be revolutionizing for them. And we're definitely going to, see people start talking about their use more and more. In fact, I love telling stories about talking to parents at my son's games, but I was talking to a parent at one of Gavin's lacrosse games, and I mentioned, she asked what I did for a living, and I mentioned that I run a medical marijuana business, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we smoke a lot of pot."
Mm-hmm.
It's just how people react now. I mean,
Right.
It's
That's
like
funny.
saying you work at oh yeah, I run a liquor store. We drink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it is. And that's here in Colorado. I mean, I guess for me, my family back home is they see me, and I talk about it, I post links, I work here, and I guess I mean, I'm fine. I do good work. I have a good sleep schedule. I don't use this all day. I think if they see responsible people, and there's
right.
many more of them,
That's right.
especially here.
Right.
Then it just changes. Like, oh, it's just pot. Who cares?
That's right.
Yeah.
Just pot. Who cares?
Yeah.
Let's move into that.
Yeah.
Let's move into that.
Who cares? Yeah.
We've got another big week at iCannabis Radio. Of course, tomorrow night from 6 to 8 is Sex Pot Radio, right? Sex Pot Radio. Thursday, Hemp Connoisseur Magazine is on from 4 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, each morning from 9 to 11 is John Doe Radio. Mondays are always a big day here because In the Lab with Jennifer Murray is on from 3 to 4 p.m. So don't miss that. And you can always watch archived shows if you miss any of us live. So please check it out. I'd like to thank our sponsors tonight: Mile High Wellness, Noto Urban Garden Supply, Cuffle Collmore and Company, Edson Meat and Mats, Medical Marijuana of the Rockies, Medical Marijuana 101, and Run on Grass. Also, next week, I'll tell you guys whether or not I got in on the New York City Marathon Lottery. I'll find out on Wednesday and let you guys know. Have a great week, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.